Please be seated. My name is Dave Douglas, and it's my pleasure to serve as Dean of the William and Mary Law School, and I would like to welcome all of you here for today's class of 2017 award ceremony. This is always a great event. It's a wonderful time to celebrate the accomplishments of our students, and it's a great time for family to be here as well. And so we have a few awards saved for tomorrow, but we're going to go through a lot of the awards here today, and then there have been a few that were awarded earlier this year that we won't go back to. Let me say this. Today is a time of celebration, so I'm speaking now to the parents and the families. There's a little formality here. It feels very formal right now, at least. But this is a time to, if your child or loved one is receiving an award, you can express your enthusiasm about that. Yeah. Boy, we've got a hot audience today. You're welcome. One of you may have a camera. If you do, you can use it, okay? So, no, this is a great day. It's meant to be a time of celebration. It will also be followed by a reception. We often have that reception over at the Wren Building on the old campus. It's kind of squishy and wet and soggy over there, so we're going to go back to the law school. So please join us after this ceremony back at the law school. Now, one more threshold matter before we jump into the recognition of our students. You're probably looking at this thing right here and saying, what is that? Well, that's a mace that we use in all of our formal ceremonies here at the law school. It's actually got a nice history. It was fabricated in England in the 19th century, and it is a replica of the mace that's used to open the House of Commons in Parliament. So it's lovely that we have this. It came to us a long time ago, and we use it in all of our official ceremonies today and then, of course, tomorrow at graduation. Well, let's get started. We begin the ceremonies today with recognition of new members of Order of the Coif. Now, Order of the Coif is one of the highest honors that law schools confer on their graduating students. This year, we will initiate 21 students into Order of the Coif. And the terms of engagement with Order of the Coif is it's for the top 10% of the graduating class. Let me just say a little bit about Order of the Coif. Kind of a funny name. What exactly is Order of the Coif, and why does it have that name? Well, it was founded actually early in the early 20th century. A couple of law schools got together and said, we really ought to honor some of students that graduate from law school with outstanding academic records, and so let's do that. In the early 20th century, if you were going to have a scholastic fraternity or a social fraternity, guess what you did in terms of names? You used Greek words, because everybody liked Greek words. So the original Order of the Coif was called Theta Kappa Nu. After a couple years, somebody comes up with the idea that says, that's not that great of a name. We need a better name. And we ought to go back into English legal history to come up with a really dignified name that we could apply for this wonderful scholastic society. So what did they do? Well, let's take a few minutes and talk about this. We're going to have a little history lesson here for a second, though there will be no test. I need you to come back with me to the Middle Ages in England. Now, by the middle decades of the 14th century, a tradition in England had developed of elevating the most senior and most exalted lawyers in England to the rank of sergeant at law. Sergeant at law. Now, you're sitting there saying, sergeant at law? What in the world is that? Why would they call a lawyer a sergeant at law? Well, the term is a little odd to our ears, but it's an old French term, and sergeant in this context means servant. Servant. So the great lawyers of England were referred to basically as servants, sergeant at law, servant. Who were they serving? Who were they serving? Well, one idea is they were serving the crown. In time, the sergeants at law themselves said, no, that's not exactly right. We have a duty to serve the king's people. That is what you do as a lawyer. You are a servant of the king's people. And I like to think about that a little bit in terms of a tradition we have at the law school today of we're training people to be citizen lawyers, which that is to say, to some extent, serve the people as well, but obviously in a different context. So as I mentioned, sergeant at law was an exalted term, and only the best lawyers, the most esteemed lawyers in England would arise to this position. Now, the position of sergeant at law, if you attained that position, and very few lawyers did, came with a very important perk. Only sergeants at law could be made justices of the Court of Common Pleas or the King's Bench. So if you became a sergeant at law, this was quite an honor, and you had a great road ahead of you. The earliest account that we have of a ceremony in which English lawyers were elevated to the rank of sergeant of law comes at the very beginning of the 1500s. And here's how it happened. So the sergeants of law would arrive at a great hall in London, and this would be their day. And they would all line up and kneel. And behind them would come some of the great jurists, those who were already sergeants at law. And they would take a scarlet robe and lay it on the shoulders of those who were about to be initiated into this order. Then they took a little white bonnet and wrapped it over their head. Now, what did that bonnet look like? Well, let me make a suggestion to you. If you're kind of into this, go down to Colonial Williamsburg while you're in town and ask for a little children's bonnet, a little children's bonnet. That's what this was. That was the coif. It was called a coif. So these great English lawyers who had ascended to sergeant at law had the scarlet robe across their shoulders and a white bonnet over their heads. And this was a very important part of the ceremony. There was a little bit more to it. This was not a one-day event. The next day, all the new sergeants-elect would go to the Westminster Hall where the House of Parliament are, and they would gather, and they would, in effect, each new initiate would, in effect, do a moot court argument. So it's kind of an interesting, this is a pretty elaborate thing. There was one final piece of this, by the way, that if you were a sergeant-elect, you had to pay a lot of money because you paid for everything. You paid for the feast. You were obliged to give everyone around you gold rings and robes and all. So being a sergeant at law had a little bit of a downside, but it was quite an honor, and most people chose to do it. So go back to 1902 when we're founding this honorary organization. The sense was we should honor these American law school graduates with this reference back into the Middle Ages of English law. And so the particular striking point of that ceremony was the white covering, the coif. And so this becomes Order of the Coif. So we will at this point initiate this year's new group of members of Order of the Coif. And I'm going to ask one of our faculty, who is a member of Order of the Coif himself, Bill Richardson, to come forward and read the names of our 21 newest members.
I always find I need to adjust the height of the microphone after Dave's spoken. With no further ado, there are 21 of you. We'll start, they're in alphabetical order. Kristen Michelle Adams. And obviously, as I read your name, please come forward to receive your certificate. William James Conlon IV. Brian Patrick Curie. Gordon M. Dobbs. Anna C. Ellermeyer. Emily Catherine Hessler. Matthew Micah Hildebrand. Lila Lombardo Inman. Emily Olivier Kiesler. Madeline Agnes Kraszewski. Carrie M. Mattingly. Caitlin M. Mosley. Andrew John Pecoraro. We have one recipient who cannot be with us today. It's Elizabeth Ploman. Michelle C. Prendergast. John Michael Satira. Catherine Brooke Schaffer. Carly Jolene Tebelman. Ann G. Wallace. Michelle A. Weinbaum. And the last one, but obviously not the least, Christina L. Wentworth.
Pictures are available.
Congratulations to them all.
Well, congratulations to all of our new members of Order of the Coif. You know, maybe someday we'll do the scarlet robes and the white bonnets, but we're not there yet. A handshake and a certificate is about where we are right now. Now, as it happens every year, we also recognize one other person into membership in Order of the Coif as an honorary member. Now, this is how this works. Most law schools actually don't have a chapter of Order of the Coif. It's somewhat challenging to have a chapter of Order of the Coif, probably only about 75 of the 200 law schools. We got our chapter of Order of the Coif in 1980. So we have some alums who graduated before 1980 who would have been Order of the Coif had we had the chapter at that time. Of course, we did not. So each year we go back to the students who graduated from this law school prior to 1980, and we confer honorary Coif membership on one of these individuals. And there are two requirements. Number one, you had to be eligible to be Order of the Coif at the time that you graduated. And number two, you have to have had a particularly distinguished legal career in the meantime. So today, we recognize an honorary member of Order of the Coif, Diane O'Donnell, who graduated from this law school in 1976. Now, I want to tell you a little bit about Diane. So Diane came to the law school in the fall of 1973, having just graduated from Smith College. Now, time for another history lesson. By the way, you're going to get a few history lessons here today. So it's time for the second history lesson. The second history lesson is, what did the law school look like in 1973? Well, one of the noticeable things about the law school in 1973 is there weren't very many women here. In fact, there were only 17% of that class, the class of 1976, were women. And there were no women's organizations at that time. In fact, it would be the very next year, 1974, where female law students at this law school decided to have a women's law student organization called the Marion Williams Society. So Diane is here in law school. She graduates in 1976. She's a very outstanding student. She's an articles editor on the William and Mary Law Review. And again, had we had Coif at that time, she would have been a member of Order of the Coif. One other little sort of fun fact is I went back and looked at the people from the class in 1976. It turns out, though only 17% of the students in that class were women, had we had Order of the Coif, over half of the membership would have been women from that year. So we had some, yeah, there you go. You may have noticed a good number of women up here today. I'm just saying. Diane O'Donnell has spent her career since she graduated in 1976 as a securities regulation attorney with a particular expertise on mutual fund regulation. After graduation, she went to work for the Securities and Exchange Commission in Washington, D.C., as an attorney in the Division of Investment Management, eventually rising to the position of special counsel to the director of the division. In 1983, she became an associate general counsel of the Boston Company Advisors, a subsidiary of Shearson Lehman Brothers, where she handled legal matters pertaining to mutual fund regulation. In 1986, she became a senior vice president and deputy general counsel of Mitchell Hutchins Asset Management. In 2001, doing again mutual fund regulation work, and in 2001, joined the New York City law firm of Wilkie Farr and Gallagher, where she continues to practice law, again with the practice focusing on mutual fund regulation. She's had an extraordinarily successful career and really is one of the national experts in the regulation of mutual funds, which of course is such an important feature of our economy. So Diane, it gives us great pleasure all these many years later to confer on you membership in Order of the Coif. And if you'll just come up, we want to give you a certificate. So that's great. So next we're going to move to competition team recognition. A very important feature of William & Mary Law School, as is true with other law schools, but it's a very important feature for us, are our competition teams. We have a number of competition teams: moot court, trial team, alternative dispute resolution team, transaction team. I want to recognize some of the folks that participated in this. Now, this is always the most daunting part of the program for me when we do this every year, because what I'm going to try to do is acknowledge the 3 Ls who had a particularly good success in one of these competitions. I always am in fear that I'm leaving someone out because we're packing this together over the last 12 months. So I'm going to read out some names of people who have been particularly successful in these competitions. And if I've forgotten you, come up and tell me, but please give me some grace, if you will. Thank you. I appreciate that. This is particularly important to us, by the way, particularly with moot court. Moot court really is the first competition team established in American law schools. So there's a great tradition of moot court, and it begins here at William & Mary. We're the first law school, of course, in America, and one of the first things we did when we established our law school in 1779 is to create a moot court program. But let me recognize some of the folks that have had some success, and I'll ask you to stand as I read your name. So in the moot court, at the Toros Law School competition, semifinalist Alex Visser. At the St. John's competition, semifinalist Connor Bleakley. At the Capital University competition, quarterfinalist Aneta Nikolic and Marielle Echemadilla. At the ABA National Appellate Advocacy competition in the Final Four, Gordon Dobbs and Randy Kritzer. For the trial team had an unbelievable year this year. Both and many of those very successful advocates were 3 Ls. The Gorley competition in Pittsburgh, the 2 final teams happened to be 2 William & Mary teams. They had somebody drop out at the last minute, and they said, bring another William & Mary team. They weren't prepared. They hadn't practiced. They finished. They won. The 2 William & Mary teams wound up being the final 2 teams. And we'll recognize Spencer Reese and Kevin Benazan. The ABA Labor and Employment, Tasha Thompson and Kevin again. The Tulane Professional Football Negotiation Competition, won by Ann Wallace and Mariel, quarterfinals, Ann Wallace and Mariel Echemadilla. So we had a great success this year. I hope I haven't left anybody out, but let's give a round of applause for everybody who competed. So the next honor that we will confer is the Order of the Barristers. This is going to be awarded by one of our beloved adjunct professors, Geoffrey Bright. Geoffrey, please come forward.
As the coach of the trial team, and I'm sure this thing is way too high for me, this is one of my favorite days and one of my saddest days, because I spent 2.5 years with most of my trial team members, and this is the day that I say goodbye to most of them. And so we have a pretty close relationship. We have dinner often, and they had an amazing season. I get to brag a little bit because this is the first year that we won the national championship on the American Bar Association, and a number of those students are here today, and national championships don't come very often. And as important it is to get the honor of Order of the Coif and have your little hat and your little thing you get to wear, most of the students that we marry really strive for something else. And that's a green T-shirt with a pink pig on it. And that's because the trial team is known for bringing home the bacon. And it's quite an honor to get one of those shirts. The Order of Barristers is a nationally recognized honor for trial advocacy, for oral advocacy, and a number of the students are from the trial team, and then a number from moot court, and some from ADR. I'm going to try to pronounce his name properly. The leader of the trial team this year, who did an amazing job of putting up with me and putting up with 36 other students who had to follow his direction, and my good friend is Kevin Binyazin. Come on. His partner in crime, and there were quite a few partners in crime on this group, who trains the 1Ls who go through a selection process to get on this team. And we usually end up with 80 to 100 1Ls trying out for 12 slots. And Kevin's partner in crime, who trains those 1Ls so they can have me for their 2L year, is Tasha Thompson. For some strange reason this year, we had an overabundance of fiery redheads. And I think half the team has red hair. Not a requirement, but maybe the fieriest of the red hairs, who did an amazing job in competitions with a very quiet voice and a fierce courtroom presence, Laura Warden. And that's like really red hair. The next honoree is a twofer. He wrote the very important appellate problem for the Spong Appellate Advocacy, a moot court tournament that we have here at the law school, where students come from all over the country, judges come from all over the country. But at the same time, while doing that, he managed to win a couple of awards on the trial team. His sense of humor might take him far or might get him in jail. I'm not sure which. Connor Blakely. And Professor Jennifer Franklin's going to do the rest.
Okay, the next awardee has also done double duty with ADR and with moot court, and that's Marielle Ann Etchemandia. And then the next one is a student that I had in her very first year in legal writing, and has gone on to serve the school well, Lila Inman. Okay, the next student I also taught as a 1L, Randy Kreiser. He's gone on to compete in several competitions, advancing to nationals twice. Randy Kreiser. Okay, this next student is a moot court student. He was my development justice, which meant he served as my right-hand man. And as this being my first year coaching and advising the moot court team, I needed him on a daily basis. Gordon Dobbs. Then our next awardee, Teresa Donaldson. She ran the Spong competition for us. She is absolutely amazing at everything that she did. And then last but not least, our Chief Justice for the moot court team, someone who also helped me out a great deal this year and who I just absolutely enjoyed working with, Mary Johnston. Thank you.
Well, congratulations to all those students. They really are all terrific advocates. Now, as it happens, the Order of the Barristers permits a law school every year to honor one person who's not a student. In all the years of Order of the Barristers and the awards that we've given, only once have we conferred an award on someone, the Honors of Order of Barristers Award, who was not a student. But we're going to do it again today. And today we honor Geoffrey Bright. So the students know Geoffrey Bright, but the parents don't. And so I need to tell you a little bit about Geoffrey Bright. And first of all, I want to say this. Why did we pick him? We picked him for two reasons. Number one, his qualities as a trial lawyer. Number two, his qualities as a teacher and trainer of young people. First of all, as a trial lawyer, Geoffrey Bright is quite simply one of, if not the best trial lawyer in Virginia. He has been recognized consistently as one of the top trial lawyers in the state. He has been is a past president of the Virginia Trial Lawyers Association. He's also, his reputation as a trial lawyer, though, goes well outside the bounds of the Commonwealth of Virginia. A lot of you may be familiar with what may be the largest and most complex piece of civil litigation in American history, which is the litigation resulting after the BP spill. That was there were thousands and thousands and thousands of claims that came out of that spill. And it was an unbelievably complex case for any judge to manage. And so what happened is a federal judge who was managing this said, I need to narrow the field down of lawyers that I'm going to deal with. So I'm going to pick 15 trial lawyers to handle basically the plaintiff's claims. Geoffrey Bright was one of those that was selected from across the country. So he's extraordinarily well regarded. But the second reason we're honoring Geoffrey Bright today is because he is a superb teacher of our students and training them to be exceptional trial advocates. He's been the coach of our trial team for 13 seasons, and during that time period, we have become one of the strongest trial teams in the United States. Now, let me say a little bit about Geoffrey Bright and his teaching style, his coaching style. His style is, shall we say, intense. He knows it, his students know it, and they clamor for it because they know that he will turn them into top-notch trial lawyers. There's no casual way of being a trial lawyer, Geoffrey Bright has said. It is challenging physically, and it's challenging emotionally, and it's challenging mentally. Geoffrey has an incredibly busy law practice based in Virginia Beach, but he devotes an extraordinary amount of time to training our students in the art of trial advocacy. He hosts them in his home. He meets with them regularly. He coaches them. He pushes them. He prods them, and they become superb trial lawyers. Geoffrey is also well regarded around the country as a legal educator. He's taught at Harvard Law School. He's taught at Columbia Law School, in addition to our law school. And let me say this to you. What's striking is you might say, well, Geoffrey must be one of your alumni. That's why he gives you so much. Actually not. Geoffrey's a graduate of Tulane Law School, but he has embraced and adopted William & Mary Law School as his own. And so, Geoffrey, it is our great pleasure to confer on you the Order of the Barristers. You get the microphone if you want.
No, I don't know if I need a microphone. Thank you very much. It's really very, very good. Thank you.
Okay, we move on now to the academic awards. There are several awards that we confer every year based on the academic achievement of our graduating students. And we're going to begin with the ABA BNA Award for Excellence in the Study of Healthcare Law.
Hi. Okay, so this award recognizes outstanding achievement in health law studies. It is presented by the American Bar Association and the Bloomberg Bureau of National Affairs. The graduate receiving this award today has demonstrated exceptional intellectual engagement and commitment to the study and practice of health law. In addition to preparing himself for the practice of health law through his coursework, he has researched many health law issues as a graduate research fellow, had his note regarding telehealth companies and antitrust published in the William & Mary Business Law Review, excelled in health law-related externships, and spent a summer working at the Food and Drug Administration. Following graduation, he will be clerking for a federal bankruptcy judge in Richmond. The profession is very fortunate to be welcoming such a talent into the fold. For his superior performance and commitment to health law studies, I am so proud to present this award to Alexander Kalanyuk. Please come forward to receive your award.
Good afternoon and welcome. My name is Laura Heyman, and I'm a member of the intellectual property faculty here at the law school. The American Bar Association and Bureau of National Affairs Award for Excellence in the Study of Intellectual Property Law honors superior academic performance in that field. Our recipient this year earned top grades in copyright law, where she received the Cali Award for the top exam in the class, trademark law, patent law, and international intellectual property law. She's also served as an articles editor for the Business Law Review and as a member of our moot court team and as the vice president for our Student Intellectual Property Society. But what really makes this year's recipient stand out is the extraordinary success that she has had as a writer. So a number of our students write papers here at William & Mary. Some end up getting published in one of our law journals as a student note. Many others, I suspect, receive a grade and then are relegated to a desk drawer or a file cabinet. I know that's what happened to many of the papers that I wrote in law school. But this student didn't do that. She submitted 2 of the papers that she wrote to writing competitions, and she started winning. The Virginia State Bar IP Writing Competition, the American Intellectual Property Law Association's Robert C. Watson Award, the Grammy Foundation's Entertainment Law Initiative Student Writing Competition, where her finalist status not only garnered her publication of her article, but also a trip to the Grammys this past February, and the New York IP Law Association's William C. Connor Writing Competition, an award she will accept next week. Those 2 articles will both be published in law journals this year. That's a pretty impressive record for somebody who, as she sits here, is still 1 day shy of graduating from law school. After graduation, she will join the firm of Gerard Fox Law, practice intellectual property law there, and we look forward to following what I am quite sure will be a very successful career in IP law. So I'm very pleased to present this year's ABA BNA Award for the excellence in the study of intellectual property law to Mary Catherine Amrine.
Hi, I am Linda Butler, one of the property professors at the law school, and I am here to present the ABA State and Local Government Law Award, which is for outstanding performance in land use and local government. Every year, Professor Rosenberg and I debate who should be the recipient of this award, and it can take a while because as professors, we each have our own views. This year, the selection process took all of 2 seconds to agree on the recipient, and that is because of the outstanding achievements of the recipient. For the sake of his family, I will explain why, but name him in a few minutes. In addition to being a great student, he has achieved much in land use. He received an A in my land use course, one of the top exams. He wrote his student note on the constitutionality of an important land use tool called TDRs, or Transferable Development Rights, and it was published in the William & Mary Law Review. He wrote an independent legal writing project under my supervision proposing the establishment of a modified TDR market. The paper was innovative, and it was 75 pages long. I can see another publication in his future. I am pleased to present this award to Trevor Vincent.
Good evening or afternoon. My name is Nathan Oman. I teach bankruptcy here at the law school. And today I'm going to be presenting the American Bankruptcy Institute Medal of Excellence Award. This is an award that is given each year to a student who has demonstrated intellectual excellence in the field of failure. All professors are going to claim that the body of law that they teach is the most complicated and intellectually demanding. It's actually true when I say it. Bankruptcy law involves the intersection of contract law, corporate law, commercial law, in addition to complicated issues involving commercial finance and economics. And this year's recipients consistently demonstrated an excellent grasp of the issues involved. She studied this complicated body of law. She demonstrated real intellectual curiosity and understanding of the underlying policies and principles involved, and received the highest grade among any graduating 3L in the bankruptcy course. And this year's recipient is Angie Wallace.
The American Law Institute's CLE Scholarship and Leadership Award is presented to a member of the 2017 graduating class who represents an exemplary combination of scholarship and leadership. We've had many graduates this year who have achieved much in these areas, so choosing just one recipient was a difficult task for the dean. But our winner this year represents an outstanding combination of achievement in both areas. This year's award goes to Carrie Mattingly. And as Carrie's making her way to the stage, I want to tell you just a little bit about her accomplishments. So besides her outstanding academic achievements, as you just heard earlier, she was inducted into Order of the Coif. Carrie also served as an articles editor for the William & Mary Law Review and as a member of our moot court team. On January 6th of this year, as part of the law school's Appellate and Supreme Court Clinic, she argued a case before the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit involving both First Amendment and Fourth Amendment issues in a case involving anonymous online criticism of several elected officials. That's just the scholarship part of the award. But Carrie's also been a leader here at our law school. She's been a representative on the Student Bar Association, that's our student government association, for all 3 years. Perhaps not surprising, because she also served as student body president when she was an undergraduate at the University of Louisville, representing over 22,000 students. She served as the co-chair of voter outreach for our Election Law Society, where she helped to coordinate the group's voter assistance hotline. She wrote for the State of Elections blog, where she provided original reporting on state election law topics. She was a drafter of a report for the League of Women Voters on expanded early voting. After graduation, she'll clerk for the Honorable David J. Hale of the U.S. District Court for the Western District of Kentucky, and then she'll join the firm of Frost Brown Todd in Louisville. And so while her early legal career may be in private practice, I'm not going to be too surprised if Kentuckians see her name on a ballot one day. So it's with great pleasure that I present this year's American Law Institute CLE Scholarship and Leadership Award to Carrie Mattingly.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Judge Judith Barzilai. I spent 18 years as a federal judge on the United States Court of International Trade, and this is my 5th year teaching international trade law at William & Mary. I'm here to present the Carter Kaplan and Company International Financial Law Award. But before I do that, I want to give my personal congratulations to the graduates and their families. And I say this from personal experience. When I was a 1L, our boys were 2 and 4 years old. And I could never have gotten through the law school experience without the support of my family, especially my husband. So all you family, I know I speak for all the graduates when I say they are very grateful for your support. As I said, I teach international trade law, and this is a very difficult award to give every year. It seems to me that the students who take my class self-select into a very select group. Now, Professor Oman told you why bankruptcy law is the most complicated, but I'm going to tell you why international trade law is the most complicated. Not only do we study the cases from U.S. courts, but we also study opinions of international tribunals, such as the World Trade Organization's dispute panels. Now, even though they're supposedly written in English, it is very difficult sometimes to understand what they mean. The second reason that I think students self-select themselves in my class is that I teach it at 8:30 in the morning. So I think students have to be very motivated to want to come and take my class. So there were quite a few students who exhibited outstanding work in the area of international financial law this year. However, you have to pick one, and this year the award goes to Eric Tabor. Now, while Eric is coming up to receive his award, I'm going to tell you why he deserves this award. First of all, Eric wrote an excellent final. I give a 3-hour closed book final. The students are always pretty freaked out when I tell them that at the beginning of the year. Most of them do a pretty good job. Eric did an excellent job. Secondly, as I said, I teach at 8:30 in the morning. Sometimes it's really difficult to get a discussion going and to get questions and a good Socratic method. But Eric always helped me by answering questions, asking questions. And the third and most important reason is the following. Eric added something to our class that I could not bring. My expertise is basically in international law and import. Eric gave a wonderful presentation in export law, and he has had personal experience in dealing with export law, and he could give everyone in the class, the professor included, the flavor of what it's like to work in the real world in export law and how complex, detail-oriented, and fast-changing that area of the law is. So, Eric, again, it is my pleasure to award you the Carter Kaplan and Company International Financial Law Award. Eric has to give the plaque back, but he'll get to keep the certificate.
I now stand here to...
That's you on the other side.
I was going to call you up.
Okay. I knew to come.
I now stand here to name the recipient of this year's Johnny Donaldson Award for the most outstanding tax student in the class of 2017. But before I do that, you'll notice that Professor Eric Chasen is here with me. Eric and I teach the majority of the tax courses here at the law school, and we conspire each year to pick the winner of this award. But really, I have to make one comment. Bankruptcy? International trade? Tough? Really?
It doesn't even really need to be explained why taxes are hardest.
That's right. And not only that, to win this award, you have to excelled in multiple courses. But before I get to the requirements for the award, let me tell you why this award is named what it's named. It's named after one of our own, Johnny Donaldson, Ball Professor of Law Emeritus. He was a student here, class of 1963, editor of the Law Review. John was a great teacher, won every award that a faculty member at the college, not just the law school, the college could win during his time as a full-time teacher of the faculty. He served in untold numbers of administrative positions for the college as well as the law school. He was active in state and national bar associations, a leader at the bar, also active in the community, countless numbers of nonprofit organizations, plus he served 8 years on the James City County Board of Supervisors. But aside from those accomplishments, John is just a really good person. And when next time you pull out a dictionary, look up the word selfless, the word helpful, the word kind, and you're likely to see John Donaldson's picture there. So this award is named for a man of accomplishment and character. Now, the law school wasn't satisfied just having one thing named after John. This is not a memorial. John's still very much active in the college and wider Williamsburg community. Indeed, you might find him riding his bicycle along the Colonial Parkway someday, which he does frequently. What else? We have a classroom named for John, one of the large lecture rooms, room 127, and we have a scholarship named for John. So a classroom, a scholarship, an achievement award, that's what I call the emeritus trifecta. Very few people accomplish that. So because John's such an outstanding person, we take the naming of the recipient of this award very seriously. So what does one have to do to be eligible to receive this award? One has to have excelled in at least 3 tax courses. Don't look stunned. There are a lot of students who take at least 3 tax courses. In fact, this year, I think there were at least 9 who took 3 or more in the class. Eric and I consider not just achievement in the classroom, but anything the student may have done outside the classroom, writing research papers, participating in our tax clinic, perhaps doing an externship that's tax-related. And it turned out that this year, I think this is the strongest class of tax students we've had while I've taught at the law school in my 9th year now. Before that, I practiced law for almost 28 years as a tax lawyer. And we had a large number of students worthy of this award. And when I say worthy, I ask myself, is this someone that I would want to hire as an associate if I were still practicing law? Each case, the answer was absolutely yes. There was, however, there is one student who's the most outstanding, stands out more than the others, even though all those others I was thinking about there are worthy of the award. This student, earned an A in every upper-level tax course, 3 with me, including as a 2L, an A in partnership tax, the hardest tax course taught at this law school. And there are several students sitting out there who can attest to that fact. So without further ado, I'll do away with the suspense and ask, one more thing I have to mention. Even though she was in 3 of my courses over 2 academic years, I didn't learn until last evening how to pronounce her last name. Shows you how bright I am. Anyway, you might get it wrong too. Michelle Kiankio, please come forward and receive this award.
It's my privilege to supervise both the domestic violence and family law clinics. And as students who have been to court with me know, I have no aversion to arguing with colleagues and judges. But my job is to take about 35 of these students and teach them how to deal with actual people who used to like, if not love, the opposing party, and get them through the process of the emotional, financial, and physical problems that go along with dissolving those things. So I think I win the argument as to which one is the most pertinent. The family law section of the Virginia State Bar and the Virginia chapter of the American Academy of Matrimonial Lawyers co-sponsor a family law book award to be presented to a graduating student at each Virginia law school who has demonstrated the most promise and potential for the practice of family law. The award consists of an appropriate family law practice book together with a certificate of achievement. This year's recipient was active in both the domestic violence clinic and the family law clinic, successfully tried several cases, gave up part of her winter and spring breaks to do hearings, after which the opposing counsel asked me if he could offer her a job. She already had one. But I think the job is still open if some of you are still looking to stay in Williamsburg. She was clearly the star of our clinic program this year, and this year's recipient is Haley Lauren Geiler. You get to keep all of them.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. This is a wonderful event where we recognize so much excellence. I'm Ron Rosenberg, and I'm a professor here, but I co-direct a degree program called the LLM program with Jen Stevenson. Most of you are familiar with the JD program, but our LLM program is for international students who come from all over the world. This year, we had over 60 of them from various countries, and they sit next to your JD students in class. And so my job right now is to award the Graduate Academic Excellence Award. Now, I usually don't dispute my colleagues' statements of opinion about what is difficult. And bankruptcy law is certainly hard. Tax law might be even harder. International trade law could even be the hardest. But imagine taking any of these courses if English was not your native language. These students took all of these courses, and English was not their native language, and despite that fact, they performed extremely well. The Graduate Academic Excellence Award is the functional equivalent of Order of the Coif, which was the first award you heard Dean Douglas and Professor Richardson award to the JD students. So it is my pleasure to recognize the Order of the Coif equivalent of our LLM students. And would you please come up to receive your certificate. Bele Chai. Li Chen. Right here. Gaspar Carrillo. Mengfei Dai. Sargam Hans. Qingchuan Xia. Yajing Xie. Dishang Su. And finally, Wenchu Zhang. Good work. Congratulations.
I'm here to present the Excellence in Legal Writing Award for LLM students, so exactly what Ron just said. We have 4 recipients today. Our first is Li Chen. Sargam Hans. Lubov Mangiliba. Tian Bolan Yang.
Good afternoon. I'm Tom McSweeney. I teach legal history here at the law school. And I'm here to present the Hamilton Prize, which is for the best paper in legal history. This year I'm pleased to award the prize to Elspeth Visser. And as Elspeth is making her way to the stage, I can brag a little bit about her paper. Is Elspeth here? Well, I'll brag about her paper anyway. So Elspeth was a student in my 2015 History of the Common Law seminar, and she chose an ambitious topic for a term paper. Elspeth's paper of Saints and Kings, the Influence of Two Early British Saints on Written Law, examined 2 early medieval law codes, the Irish laws known as the Lex Innocentium, and the earliest collection of Anglo-Saxon laws, the laws of Ethelbert of Kent. And just as an aside, if you think that bankruptcy and tax law and international trade, all those things are difficult, right? Try out early Irish law or Anglo-Saxon law. They're actually words whose meaning has been lost in those codes. We just don't know what they mean. Okay, so Elspeth looked at the role that prominent clerics who would later be regarded as saints, played in the drafting of these 2 codes. And she argues that in both cases, we can see a symbiotic relationship between these clerics who drafted the codes and the kings who promulgated and enforced them. The saints who were using the law code as a space to reimagine Irish and Kentish society along Christian lines. To give just one example, women who could be warriors in Irish society were redefined along with clerics and children as innocents, a category of people who required the special protection of both the ecclesiastical and the secular authorities. The code presents women primarily in their roles as wives and mothers in ways that appear to be at odds with the presentation of women in other contemporary Irish texts. Elspeth argues that the Christianizing elements in these codes were actually attractive to secular rulers in both Ireland and Kent. The radical redefinition of social roles that came along with Christianity gave secular rulers a claim to power over areas of social life that they had never controlled before. Kings now had reason to police relationships within the family, for instance, in the name of upholding good Christian doctrine. I was very impressed by Elspeth's analysis and the depth of her research, and I'm delighted that she's received the Hamilton Prize, even if she's not here. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Aaron Brule. It's my privilege to award the John G. Crutchko Award in Labor Law and Employment Law. The generosity of Mr. Crutchko enables us to award every year an award for a graduating student who has excelled in labor law and employment relations. The recipient is selected by the faculty who teach labor and employment law. These are two intellectually demanding and practically important fields, and I'm sure that the recipient's mastery of these fields will serve her very well in her career. The 2017 recipient is Carly Tebelman. Carly, will you please come down? I feel very fortunate to have had Carly as a student in my administrative law class.
Good afternoon. I'm Laura Killinger, and I'm the director of the law school's legal practice program. The legal practice program is a 3-year required course of study designed to train our graduates to be outstanding legal writers and clear and effective oral communicators. Each year, the law school presents a legal practice scholars award to recognize the graduating students who have received an average of 3.7 or higher over these 3 semesters of legal practice. I ask that the following students who are receiving the Legal Practice Scholars Award stand and be recognized for this achievement. Kristen Adams. Mary Antley. Clay Bennett. Brian Curry. Hillary Dang. Benjamin Ellis. Emily Hessler. Lila Inman. Mary Johnston. Rachel Jones. Jacob Kipp. Madeline Krasowski. Claire Lashley. Carrie Mattingly. Caitlin Mosley. Andrew Pecoraro. Elizabeth Plowman. Catherine Schaefer. And Caroline Thee. Thank you.
The National Association of Women Lawyers Award recognizes a student who contributes to the advancement of women in society, promotes issues and concerns of women in the legal profession, exhibits motivation, tenacity, and enthusiasm, demonstrates academic achievement, and earns the respect of the dean and faculty. During her years at the law school, this year's recipient has shown great dedication to public service on behalf of women through her work both in the law school and in the community. In the law school, this student took on multiple cases for the Domestic Violence Clinic and was dedicated to the empowerment of victims of domestic violence and sexual assault. She also worked on a project where she explored the cross-section of human trafficking and domestic violence. During her time with the Family Law Clinic, she worked on multiple divorce and custody cases where she assisted legal aid clients in retaining custody of their children. She is also on the staff of the Journal of Women in the Law. In the community, she volunteers with Avalon Women's Shelter and tutors local elementary school students. William and Mary is proud to present this award to Ashley Gilkerson.
My name is Geoffrey Bright, and I am a member of the Order of Barristers. Like most of my students here today, I wish my parents were here to see me get this award. It's my honor to present the Virginia Trial Lawyer Award, and that is presented for students on the trial team who have excelled in the trial practice. And there are 3 students who are going to get that award today, and they all have different attributes. The first award recipient is Allison Prout. Allison is not who she seems. She's very sweet. She's got a great personality, but in the courtroom, she will slice you and dice you like nobody's business. And she's been a treat to have for these last few years. The second recipient, Spencer Reese. I think Spencer's first trial moot court competition was in 3rd grade. And he has been a moot court champion for the last 20-some years. And he has excelled and has been a great support for every one of his teammates. The third recipient is Jennifer West. I'm not sure if I see Jennifer, but Jennifer was one of those students who never, ever got her feathers ruffled. It did not matter what was happening in the courtroom. Did not matter what I was saying to her in her ear, which was not always pleasant. She never, ever changed in her demeanor, and she was absolutely perfect in the courtroom. So for the 3 of them, congratulations.
Thank you, Barrister Bright. So, okay, I'm back up here. We have to have a little time out here. We need a little discussion. I know a lot of the parents are watching this and they're saying, you know, I'm seeing some of these students receive a plaque and they get to hold it and then they got to turn it back in. What's up with that? So let me explain what goes on. In the law school, in the lobby, on the wall, these plaques reside, and they record the names of the students who have been winning them for 10, 20, 30 years. So it's a lovely tradition. I hope the students who graduate today will come back to the law school and see their names on their plaque. So, no, you didn't get to go home with one today, but it'll be there forever with your name on it. So that's pretty good. The next aspect of the life of the law school that we'd like to recognize is and a very important part of the life of the law school are our student-edited law reviews. We actually have 5 law reviews here at the law school. There's the William & Mary Law Review, the William & Mary Bill of Rights Journal, the William & Mary Environmental Law and Policy Review, the William & Mary Journal of Women in the Law, and the William & Mary Business Law Review. So many of our students are involved with these law reviews. It is an extraordinary amount of work. It's a very valuable part of their legal education. We estimate that this year our law students have published almost 6,000 pages of legal scholarship. I hate to imagine how many site-checking articles, notes that have gone in, and the amount of time that went into producing that number of pages. But it's a tremendous amount of work, but also a very valuable experience. Now, let me say this about law reviews. Law reviews, like so much else in the legal profession, are often sort of assessed in terms of their impact. And one of the ways in which they are assessed for their impact is how often is the work that they published cited by a court or by another scholar. So in other words, does the work that we're publishing, does it make any difference? If nobody cites it, it's like, kind of who cares maybe. But so there are careful measures of how often the work of these law reviews are cited. It turns out our 5 law reviews do exceptionally well, and I want to give you the latest numbers on this. The William & Mary Law Review is the 21st most cited law review in the United States. The William & Mary Bill of Rights Journal is the 2nd most cited specialty law review in the field of civil rights and the 3rd most cited specialty law review in the field of constitutional law. The William & Mary Environmental Law and Policy Review is the 2nd most cited specialty law review in the field of energy law and the 5th most cited specialty law review in the field of environmental law. The William & Mary Journal of Women in the Law is the 8th most cited specialty law review in the fields of gender studies, women, and sexuality. And finally, the William & Mary Business Law Review is the 10th most cited student-edited law review in the field of corporate law and business association. So this really is an extraordinary record. They're selecting important articles to publish. They're doing it very well, and it brings great favor to the law school. So I'd like to ask every student here today who has worked on one of our 5 law reviews to please stand and be recognized.
Hello again. I'm the faculty advisor for the Environmental Law and Policy Review, which, as you heard Dean Douglas say, is one of the highest rated specialty journals in those fields. I'd like to present an award to the top note published this year. Now, let me just explain a little bit about a note. All second-year students are required to, on these journals, to produce a paper which is called a note. A note kind of suggests it's short. It's not, and it's highly researched, and it takes a lot of time to produce. Of these notes that are produced by second-year students, a small number are selected for publication. And today, I'd like to recognize the smallest number of 1, which was selected to be the best note that the Environmental Law and Policy Review published this year. And the author of this note is Laura C. Hoey. Well, I'll accept this award in her behalf.
The Thomas Jefferson Prize is awarded every year by the Bill of Rights Journal for the best note published in that journal. Of the 8 notes selected for publication, the Jefferson Prize is given to the note that best addresses a novel and timely issue in constitutional law in a clear and persuasive manner. The journal is proud of all the notes it's published, but the note receiving the award today has been unanimously chosen as the best among its peers. This year's recipient is Jacob N. Kipp, who I understand could not be here today, although if Jacob's plans have changed, he's welcome to stand and be recognized. No, okay. Jacob has been awarded the Thomas Jefferson Prize for his note, "If it looks like a super PAC, acts like a super PAC, and is restricted like a super PAC, then treat it like a super PAC," why contribution limits on a hybrid PAC's independent expenditure arm are impermissible. And frankly, the title itself was pretty convincing to me. So let's congratulate Jacob.
Hi again. The William Mary Business Law Review Best Note Award is given this year to Kristen M. Adams for her note, Tweet Upon a Star, Organic Brand Engagement with Celebrities on Social Media Platforms. Kristen, come on up while I talk about you. Kristen's note discussed the recent settlement between actress Katherine Heigl and drugstore Duane Reade. Heigl sued the drugstore chain for unauthorized use of her image and social media persona on their corporate media channels. This note examines what claims a celebrity may bring against a commercial corporation for use of his or her social media without permission. It concludes by offering pragmatic guidelines for how to engage with celebrities on social media in real-time marketing while minimizing legal risk of similar claims. Her note exemplifies the type of business law scholarship that BLR endeavors to publish. And as Kristen's 1L legal writing professor, I am not surprised at all that we are standing up here today recognizing her for her outstanding scholarship. Congratulations, Kristen. And I'm not done, okay? So here, now, the William & Mary Business Law Review Outstanding Member Award is awarded this year to Alexander Kalanyuk. Come on up. Alex was BLR's executive editor, and he is receiving this award for his dedication to his journal throughout the year. Alex served as the journal's editor throughout the past academic year and has always been willing to assist with any matters that arise. He keeps a positive attitude and is incredibly dedicated to publishing a quality product. Alex has been instrumental in pushing the journal to continue to grow and to continually increase the standings of the publications within the journal community. BLR owes much of its success to devoted editors like Alex. Congratulations.
Hello, I'm Sarah Ryatz. I'm a professor here, and I'm very happy to be celebrating with all of you. I have 2 awards to present related to the William & Mary Journal of Women in the Law. The first award is for the Best Student Note. For her note, A Return on Investment, How the Breastfeeding Promotion Act Can Change the Makeup of the Private Workforce, we ask Krishna Jani to please come forward. Krishna's note... Krishna's note was excellently written, professionally researched, and relevant to the plight of women in the workforce. At a time where activism on behalf of women's issues is vital, we are very proud to select, edit, and publish this piece of legal scholarship. Congratulations. And now also from the William & Mary Women and the Journal of Women and the Law, this is an award for an outstanding member. We are pleased to ask Casey J. Wynn to come forward to be recognized for her outstanding work and devotion to the Journal of Women and the Law. Casey has been one of the journal's greatest assets, willing to take on some of the toughest articles with the utmost diligence and attention to detail. Casey consistently performed all her duties with a cheerful attitude and is truly a team player. Congratulations.
Trevor Vincent, please come forward to be recognized for your outstanding note published in the William & Mary Law Review entitled Exploiting Ambiguity in the Supreme Court, Cutting Through the Fifth Amendment with Transferable Development Rights. Trevor's note discusses the constitutional concerns of transferable development rights, or TDRs, in the context of takings law. His note argues that TDRs are relevant to both sides of the takings analysis, and that with increasing success of TDR programs, TDR banks are essential to their future by creating and ensuring just compensation. This note argues that rather than creating or proposing new laws or frameworks with which to analyze TDR programs, the law as it currently stands is sufficient to resolve constitutional concerns surrounding TDRs and to effectively exploit doctrinal ambiguities existing in the Fifth Amendment precedent. Trevor, William & Mary is proud to recognize you for your hard work and high-quality scholarship. Congratulations and best of luck.
Central to our educational process here at the law school is training our students for professionalism. And in fact, each year we recognize our students who have displayed a particularly strong commitment to professionalism, and we have a series of awards here as well. And Professor Kernshire, if you will come back up to the podium.
Hello again. The Gambro Professionalism Award recognizes the one student from every legal practice section who best exemplifies dedication to the mastery of lawyering skills and professionalism. This award is selected after consultation with the student's first-year legal writing faculty member, the adjunct faculty member, and the student's second-year professor as well. Each recipient will receive a certificate and an inscribed Jefferson Cup. Better than a plaque that you can't keep. Okay. I'd just like to say. Okay. Would the following recipients please come forward for recognition? Emily Carapella. Hillary Dang. Christopher Earl. Marielle Echamendia. Anna Ellemeyer. William Fletcher. Lila Inman. Mary Johnston. Matthew Keene. Claire Lashley. Justin Lashley. Annetta Nikolic. Andrew Pecoraro. Allison Prout. Carly Tebelman. Trevor Vincent. And Christina Wentworth. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
And now to present the Spong Professionalism Award. This award is given by the Society of the Alumni of the College of William and Mary to a third-year law student who best exemplifies professionalism and ethics in the legal practice program. The Spong Award is selected by the Legal Practice Executive Committee, and the recipient receives a certificate, a Jefferson Cup, and a check. Yes. This year, the Executive Committee could not decide between two equally outstanding graduating members of the class. I asked Professor Kern Shearer to help me present the awards to this year's recipients, Carolyn Harlemert and Andrew Pecoraro.
Okay. From the first days of law school, Carolyn has shined brightly. I recall that during Law Week of 1L year, everyone was gathered in the law school lobby for the Student Activities Fair. La Capella was singing a song, and they were singing a line, and don't worry, I'm not going to sing, but they were singing a line that went, "How am I going to be an optimist about this?" I was looking out on the sea of 1Ls, and nearby I saw Carolyn, who I did not yet know. I saw her lean over to a new friend, laugh, and say, "I think they are trying to tell us something about law school." So fast forward a few years, and I can say that Carolyn has certainly found a way to be an optimist about this. We have watched her be an amazing student, friend and mentor to her peers, an advocate for her clients in her summer jobs, externships, and clinics. We have watched her become the young attorney that will surely change people's lives for the better. Her capacity for empathy and her strong sense of justice are inspiring and contagious. Her clients will be lucky to have her on their side, and I have no doubt that those with whom and for whom she works will be grateful for the dedication, intellect, humor, sense of purpose and self, and the warmth that she carries wherever she goes. She will be sorely missed by the law school, and particularly those of us in the legal practice program. Carolyn, you are so deserving of the Spong Professionalism Award, and I am proud to present it to you.
Andrew seems to know how to say and to do just the right thing at just the right time. He is driven by a deep sense of decency and fairness, be it while reaching out to a fellow student who's in crisis, or sending a kind email to recognize a law school staff member, or representing a pro bono client before the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals. While Andrew is clearly a brilliant student, what impressed me most was how he approaches each challenge with enthusiasm, humility, and dedication. Although he always received the top writing score in my class, he was the first person back in my office the very next day to ask how he could do better. Over the years, he has repeatedly returned to the legal practice program with new insights and ideas, not only in legal writing, but also how to improve teaching and mentoring students. During his years at William and Mary, he has been generous with his time, thoughtful, intelligent, and the epitome of professionalism. In short, the law school is a better place, in part because of his professionalism and dedication. And I am certain he will go on to do great things with great integrity in the practice of law. I am truly honored to present Andrew Pecoraro with the Spong Professionalism Award.
One of the central values of William & Mary Law School is a commitment to service. And so we now turn to the time in the ceremony when we recognize the service of our students. For the past decade or so, Dean's certificates have been awarded to a small group of students whose service to the law school has been particularly compelling. Now, I have to say this is one of the hardest decisions every year because there's so many students that have made such a commitment to the law school, but we've limited this to about 20 or so students who we will offer a Dean's certificate, and I'm going to ask these folks to come forward as I read their names. Kristen Adams, Benjamin Ader, Sammy Alzawoff, Spencer Anderson, Kevin Benizem, Teresa Donaldson, Marielle Echemendia, Lila Inman, Krishna Johnny, Mary Johnston, Matthew Keene, Claire Lashley, Catherine Lennon, Annetta Nikolic, Dominic Pinot, Allison Prout, Ajinir Setawaldi, Michelle Weinbaum, Christina Wentworth, Willie Wilson Herring. Thank you all for your service to the law school in so many different ways. We very much appreciate it. Thank you. Each year, the College of William and Mary as a whole confers what are known as the Benjamin Ewell Awards. This is a campus-wide award. The criteria are outstanding participation in leadership on campus or in service to the community. Let me just say a word about this award. Who is Benjamin Ewell? Benjamin Ewell was the president of the College of William and Mary in the middle of the 19th century. And it fell to him to be president of the college at the time that Virginia was trying to decide what to do in the late 1850s, early 1860s about secession. Ewell argued strongly that secession was a fool's errand and that Virginia should have no part of it. He was overruled by the folks in Richmond, and Virginia, of course, did secede. And this part of Williamsburg, this part of Virginia, became ground zero and part of the Civil War, and the college was devastated as a result of it. We, in effect, were closed for 20 to 30 years thereafter. Ewell kept ringing the college bell again and again. There weren't students here for part of that time, but Ewell knew that someday William and Mary would rise from the ashes and be a strong university again. And so the Ewell Award was established to recognize those students who've been particularly strong in their commitment to the college. This award was conferred several weeks ago. There were 4 law students who were among the group that received this award, and I'm going to read their names and simply ask them to stand where they're seated. Spencer Anderson, Tasha Thompson, Taylor Trenchard, and Michelle Weinbaum. Now, there's so many different student organizations at the law school that are committed to service that we could talk about, but there is one particular organization that every year does such an extraordinary job of public service to the law school that I'm going to mention them specifically today, realizing that there are other organizations that I could also speak about who have been very important to the school. But this particular organization is our Black Law Students Association. They have done, once again, an extraordinary job. As you may know, we have one of the most outstanding Black Law Students Association in the United States. Almost every year, they're recognized as one of the best organizations. They've done so many different forms of service. They sponsor the Thanksgiving food drive that the law school participates in every year, in which we gather more than 2,000 to 3,000 items of food to distribute to needy families in the area. They've put on important conferences, one this year that was particularly good on implicit bias. They host programs for high school students. They mentor students at younger students in high school or colleges. There's so many different ways in which BALSA has been such a contributor to the law school community. And if you're a member of BALSA, I'd like to ask you to stand. Thank you very much.
Professor Shin and I are co-presenting, kind of like the Academy Awards, right? We'll try not to stumble over the cue cards like they do. We're co-presenting because we independently nominated the same student for the CLIA Award for Excellence in Clinical Programs, based on working with her in 2 different law school clinics, which tells you something about this student. Clinical education gives students practical experience in law practice through actually representing clients from underserved populations under the direction of licensed attorneys. The CLIA Award goes to one student at each law school who best exemplifies the values of clinical education: excellence in field work representing clients, excellence in the classroom, and contribution to the clinical community. So at the risk of wearing her out by asking her to come up once more, while she comes up, we'll tell you why this year's award goes to Christina Wentworth.
Christy completed 2 semesters of our special education clinic. She showed excellence in field work by handling some of the most difficult cases we had. With one particular client who has a significant intellectual disability, Christy maintained close communication and developed a strong working relationship with her client, empowering her client to make well-informed decisions on behalf of her child. Christy demonstrated excellence in the seminar component by asking thoughtful questions and contributing meaningfully to case rounds and case discussions. And Christy showed her dedication to the clinical community when a hearing for one of her clients could not be scheduled until the following semester. She continued working on the case as a volunteer without receiving any class credit or compensation, and she obtained a favorable outcome at the hearing. Christy contributed over 135 hours of pro bono legal services on behalf of her clients in Pele 1.
In the Puller Veterans Clinic, Christy helped a client with severe PTSD, dealing with challenges beyond the usual collecting of evidence and drafting arguments. She showed sound judgment in developing sensible proposed courses of action and needed only minimal help from me. On the rare occasions when I did offer suggestions, she jumped at the chance to improve her work. Her engagement in class discussions was always worthwhile, and what I'd note particularly is that she shows her intelligence disarmingly and with good humor, not ever coming across as arrogant or superior. She volunteered on behalf of the Puller Clinic in the United Way's Hands Together program for the homeless, and she gave me insightful and constructive observations that will help me improve the clinic program. She devoted over 127 hours to our clinic over a semester. So we are very pleased to give this award to Christy Wentworth.
Good afternoon. My name is Vincent Grosso, and I serve as the president of the George Wythe Society. So it should come to no surprise that I'm here to present the George Wythe Society Award. Now, this award goes out to someone who exemplifies outstanding service to the law school community and for fidelity to those qualities of character, leadership, and selfless service which distinguished the life of George Wythe. Now, the person who received this award has done a number of things for this law school. She led the academic support program, which is in charge of teaching assistants. She was the one-time treasurer for the Children's Advocacy Law Society. She served as a senior editor on JOWL, an articles editor. She helped start the Muslim Law Students Association, and she served as a secretary on the Honor Council. In addition to all of that, she served her country with a distinguished career in the military. So I hope you all will join me in congratulating Michelle Weinbaum on receiving the George Wythe Award.
I'm presenting the Graduate Community Involvement Award, and this award is for an LLM student who's been an outstanding member of the William and Mary Law School community. This year we have one recipient, Ree-Ann Guo.
The Honor Council is one of our most important organizations at the law school, and it is run by the students. It protects and nurtures the climate of trust and integrity that is central to the life of the law school. The Honor Council this year has been led very ably by graduating student Lila Inman. Lila, would you please come forward? And as Lila comes forward, I'd like to acknowledge the other members of the Honor Council this year who are graduating. Margaret Burnside, William Conlon, Claire Lashley, Catherine Lennon, Darius Rahani Shukla, and Michelle Weinbaum. Thank you all.
Good afternoon. The Puller Clinic Challenge coins are presented to those graduating students who have represented our nation's military heroes by participating in the Puller Clinic and emulating the characteristics of selfless service and professionalism. Before we begin, however, I would like to ask all those who have worn the uniform or are committing to do so after graduation to stand and accept our deepest appreciation for your service. The tradition of coins in the military began when soldiers in the Civil War and World War I left for battle with a coin from home in their pocket, and they kept it after the conflict as a lasting remembrance of their wartime experiences. A coin is not merely a token. Coins today are a tangible source of pride for America's warriors at every level in the chain of command. Commanders in every branch of service use them as on-the-spot awards for excellence or service. Today, they are a token of gratitude for at least one semester's work assisting veterans in their claims for service-connected disabilities in our Veterans Benefits Clinic. Many thanks to each of the following graduates for their tireless efforts on behalf of our nation's heroes. In order to be efficient, I will read the names alphabetically, but in the interest of time, students will accept their coins in the order they arrive on stage. Please hold your applause until the last student's name is called. Zoe Arndt, Daniel Brannigan, Benjamin Ellis, Paul Erdl, Justin Ferraro, come forward if anyone's here, Devin Humphreys, Lila Inman, Mary Johnston, Chelsea King, Madeline Krasowski, Claire Lashley, Laura Manchester, Anna Mateus, Brittany McGill, Michelle Monfiletto, Haley Morton, Caitlin Mosley, Mari Mull, John Nelson, Caitlin O'Connor, Michaela Rose Pentecost, Dominic Pino, Thomas Sandbrink, David Schlosser, Catherine Schaefer, Mitchell Smith-Peter, Haley Steffen, Austin Swing, Gregory Tolbert, Michelle Weinbaum, and Christina Wentworth. Thanks to all of you.
It is my honor to stand in for our class of 2005 alumnus Claire Maddox Ribble and her husband Bob, who generously established this award to recognize a law student for his or her outstanding service to children with special needs and their families through the Pele Special Education Advocacy Clinic. Claire and Bob established this award in honor of their son Evan and in memory of Evan's twin brother Brooks. This award is presented to a graduating student who has shown a dedicated commitment to special education law and the rights of children. This year we have two worthy recipients, and they are Michelle Monfiletto and Christina Wentworth. And I'll just say a few words as they make their way up to the stage. Michelle has had a long-standing commitment to serving children with disabilities. She is a former special education teacher who taught in Bronx, New York for 5 years before transitioning to the law school. I've had the privilege of working with Michelle for 3 years now. She and I both arrived at William & Mary in the summer of 2014. I was a brand new full-time clinical professor who inherited almost 70 cases, and I was overwhelmed. Luckily, my predecessor and the admissions deans had selected Michelle as the Pele Fellow before I even arrived. The Pele Fellow essentially serves as a teacher's assistant and a research assistant for the professor. During my first semester, we had too many cases and not enough students enrolled in my clinic, and Michelle saved my semester. I assigned some of my clinic's cases to Michelle during her very first semester of law school, and she embraced this opportunity. Despite her demanding schedule, she worked diligently on her cases and kept our clinic moving forward. Michelle even had the opportunity to represent a client at a special education meeting by herself during her first semester of law school, a task I would not have trusted to any other law student. Michelle continued her passion and advocacy by taking both semesters of my clinic and continuing serving as my GERF over the last few years. I first met Christy when I was an adjunct professor at another law school in Virginia, and I actively recruited Christy to enroll at that law school. I remember being impressed even then by her commitment to child advocacy and her professionalism. Christy was kind enough to let me know that she had selected William and Mary over the other Virginia school, and little did she know I had recently interviewed for a teaching position here, and I now like to joke that I followed Christy to William and Mary. Christy was a stellar clinic student in every aspect. Though she started the semester with limited knowledge of special education law, she was eager to learn all she could about this very technical area of law. She dove right into her cases, reviewing voluminous records and preparing for client meetings. Because of my high level of trust in Christy's preparation and abilities, I allowed her to attend a client special education eligibility meeting without me when I had an unavoidable conflict. Christy conscientiously prepared for this meeting, reviewing all the relevant regulations, preparing with me in advance, drafting detailed work product, and not surprisingly, she had a successful outcome. As a Pele 2 mentor, she was meticulous in her review of her students' work product, saving me countless hours of editing, and her strong leadership and work ethic allowed me to increase our clinic's capacity and assist even more families in need. It's truly been my privilege to witness their growth as future lawyers, and I'm pleased to award both Michelle and Christy with the Special Education Advocacy Award.
The law school student government is called the Student Bar Association. It does remarkably good work and important work for the law school every year. It has been led this year by Spencer Anderson, and Spencer will be passing the torch, or actually has already passed the torch, to Blake Willis, but I'm going to ask Spencer and Blake together to confer their awards.
Thank you, Dean Douglas. My name is Spencer Anderson. I'm joined on stage by Blake Willis, who will be taking over SBA here this next year. We have the great privilege of recognizing those graduating students who have been elected to be leaders of their class, leaders of the law school as a whole, as part of the Student Bar Association. As Dean Douglas mentioned, the Student Bar Association is the student government association for the law school. Its members are elected by each individual class to be representatives, and as the law school as a whole, to be executive board members and to speak on all of their behalf. As SBA president, it's been my honor to work with all these individuals and to see the amount of work that they've put in, both publicly and behind the scenes, to support our student organizations, create the law school's most prominent social events, and speak for their classmates on behalf of the administration. I've watched these individuals fulfill their positions of leadership with an unmatched level of grace and sensitivity towards their classmates, and I am so happy to recognize them today for the leadership, time, and effort they have given to the law school over the past 3 years. When you hear your name, if you please line up on the stage. Kristen Adams. Mary Booth. Margaret Burnside. Owen Ecker. Rian Guo. Caleb Hayes. Carrie Mattingly. Steve McCulloch. Arlen Papazian. Allison Prout.
And we do have one final person to recognize with the SBA, which is Spencer Anderson. Like Dean Douglas mentioned, Spencer served as the president this past year and served as a 2L class representative before that. I can say, having worked with Spencer over the last year and taking over SBA for the coming year, your service doesn't go unrecognized, and you've been an outstanding mentor, and you will be very greatly missed at the law school. So thank you.
Good afternoon. In keeping with the William Mary citizen lawyer tradition, the law school confers certificates on graduates who distinguish themselves through excellent community and public service. It's my privilege to recognize this year's William Mary public servants. But before I do that, I want to pose a question to the family and friends here. Truth be told, you were a little worried, weren't you, that law school was going to turn your graduates into a risk-averse, serious, staid, studious lot, right? Well, at William & Mary, we have a wild side. We live on the edge. And to prove that, I'm going to read the names in reverse alphabetical order. When I call your name, please stand, and if you would, please hold your applause until the end. Laura Wright, Willie Wilson Herring, Chantel Williams, Jennifer West, Christina Wentworth, Michelle Weinbaum, Ann Wallace, Crystal Tupia, Tasha Thompson, Katie Teeters, Emily Sterling, Haley Steffen, Rachel Soliceto, Mitch Smith-Peter, Ajanur Setawaldi, Donna Rudnicki, Michaela Pentecost, Andrew Pecoraro, Annetta Nikolic, Michelle Monfiletto, Brittany McGill, Gregory Marinelli, Laura Manchester, Catherine Lennon, Justin Lashley, Thomas Keefe, John Youngblood, Mary Johnston, Victoria Jensen, Lila Inman, Nicholas Husher, Devin Humphreys, Matthew Hildebrand, Zachary Hawari, Jonathan Gonzalez, Haley Geiler, Emily Furnish, Sarah Edwards, Marielle Echamendia, Gordon Dobbs, Faye Young Dye, Randy Kreiser, Samara Corbin, Kelsey Christensen, Michelle Kianchio, Daniel Carroll, Austin Buckley, Chelsea Brewer, Bethany Bostron, Raymond Bilter, Rebecca Ario, Christine Anchin, Mary Catherine Amorine, and Jake Albert. Thank you all for the tremendous service you've provided.
Well, we have now come to the end of our ceremony. As you can tell, families and friends, the class of 2017 is an extraordinarily accomplished class. Let's give them one final round of applause. And now I would like to invite everyone to come back to the law school for a reception. So I look forward to chatting with you there. Thank you so much for being here.